Wonderful. Okay, so hi everyone. My name is Ellie Dunwall and I'm one of the Global Opportunities Officers at the University of Bristol. You've currently got me from home because we're still working from home at the moment. So I'm in my living room just to give you a little bit of an idea where I am. Thank you very, very much for joining us today. It's really great to have you here and hopefully be able to talk to you about studying abroad at Bristol and why you may want to consider study abroad at Bristol. Yeah, Ellie, I will definitely make this recording available to you following the session, so don't worry about that at all. So let's start off. Why would you want to study abroad at Bristol? So some of you may have heard of Bristol before. For some of you, it may be a new city that you've never heard of. And during this presentation, I'm going to hopefully give you an overview of the city of Bristol, talk a little bit about the University of Bristol itself, and then chat about our study abroad programme and what we have to offer students. We'll then talk a little bit about student life and application info. And then, as I said before, we'll have a Q&A at the end where you can ask any questions. So, the city of Bristol. So for those of you that don't know, Bristol is located in England. We're in the southwest of the UK. And if you think of kind of a map of the UK, we are on the border in between England and Wales. So we're kind of southwest. We are a relatively large city. So we're currently the 8th largest city in the UK. And we've got a population of just over 450,000. The city itself, as I said, we're located in the southwest and we're around 90 minutes from London. So if you just go straight across east, you will reach London. And we're also about 15 minutes from the historic city of Bath. I highly recommend, if you do come to Bristol, to go and visit Bath because it's a wonderful old Roman city, very beautiful. We have our own international airport at Bristol, so we're very well located and we've got lots of really great amenities and travel from the city itself. So the international airport flies obviously internationally, but also throughout Europe, and you can get some really cheap flights to places like Paris and Amsterdam, and it's a really, really good base from which to explore the rest of the UK, but also the rest of Europe as well. This is a quote from one of our study abroad students that studied with us last semester. They said that they think that the city of Bristol is very liberal and also very young. And we would definitely agree with that. So within Bristol, we have two universities. We have the University of Bristol and then also the University of the West of England. And we've got around 60,000 students that study in the city. Bristol's really well known for being a very liberal city, and we've had lots and lots of accolades. One of the recent ones is we were voted 11th on the National Geographic Cool list of cool places to visit throughout the world. We've also been ranked the best UK city to live in by the Sunday Times, which is one of our big national newspapers, twice since 2014. And we really are a very well-known city within the UK. And there's lots going on in Bristol. It feels very vibrant and it feels like there's always something to do. We have tons of festivals throughout the summer and also just throughout the year that students can attend. But also we are relatively medium sized, so it's really easy to walk or cycle around Bristol. It's a very walkable city, which I think gives a nice mixture between it feeling very vibrant but also being very easy to get around. We have got over 450 parks and green spaces within Bristol, so there's lots of green space for students to enjoy when they want to get out of kind of the hustle and bustle of the centre. And I'm very proud that we were actually the first UK city to be voted the European Green Capital back in 2015, which was a real testament to our commitment to sustainability as a city, but also as an institution as well. Bristol is a very eco-friendly city. There's a huge amount of green initiatives going on in the city, and Bristolians are very proud to be very green. We were actually, the University of Bristol was the first UK city to declare a climate change emergency back in 2019. So yeah, sustainability is very, very important to everything that we do. So on the right-hand side, you'll see kind of a little picture of the city of Bristol, or part of the city. If you look down at the very bottom corner, you have the River Avon, which is a river that runs through the city of Bristol. That area is called the harbour side, so students will go and sit and relax on the harbour side when it's a sunny evening like today. And then behind that you'll see Hotwells, an area of Bristol called Hotwells, which is very close to the harbour side. And then a little bit behind that you'll be able to see the University of Bristol campus as well. So as I said, we're also very close to the countryside and areas of outstanding natural beauty. We are relatively close to Devon, which has some gorgeous beaches and coastlines, but we're also very close to the Cotswolds as well. So if you go north of Bristol, you'll be in the Cotswolds, which is made up of very beautiful, quaint, very traditionally English towns, and then some really, really beautiful walking routes as well. As I mentioned, Bristol is a very liberal and forward-thinking city. We're home to a lot of activists. There's a huge amount of art happening in the city. So Bristol's very well known for being the home of Banksy, the famous graffiti artist. And there's a huge amount of graffiti throughout the city. We actually have the biggest graffiti festival that happens in the summer down in an area called Southville. We've also got a really active film industry within Bristol. So you may have heard of Wallace and Gromit potentially, Aardman Animations, they're based in the city, but lots of different film companies also are based in Bristol and do a lot of filming around the city as well. And we have a really independent spirit. So Bristol's very well known for, as I said, being very forward thinking, but also being a great home to independent and like-minded people. So we have a lot of independent shops and cafes and businesses in the city. We actually have Europe's largest length of independent shops based up in Gloucester Road. So it's a really nice place to be a student. We're also well known for being a hub of media, technology and communications. So we actually were voted the best place outside of London for startups. So those kind of initiatives. And also we have a very active aerospace engineering industry based in Bristol as well. So Boeing, Rolls-Royce, Airbus, they're all based in the north of the city. Sorry, before I start this video, this is just to say, this is just a video that gives you a real overview of the city of Bristol, and hopefully you'll find it interesting. Great, so hopefully that video gave you a little bit of a flavour of what the city is like. So moving on to the university. So the University of Bristol was established in 1876, so we're a relatively old university. And we were the first higher education institute to admit men and women on an equal basis, which is something that we're very, very proud of. And that commitment to gender equality really continues to underpin what we do as an institution. In terms of rankings, we're currently ranked 58th in the world, and we're also ranked 9th in the UK. To give you an idea, I think there's around 16,000 universities in the world, so at 58th, we're not doing too bad. We're a very academically competitive institution, and we're also a very international university. So we've got around 26,000 students that study with us at undergraduate, postgraduate taught level, and they come from over 150 countries, and so we are a very international campus. Our staff body is also international, so around 30% of our academics are international. At the cutting edge of global research, we also tackle some of the world's most pressing issues, such as human rights, infection and immunity, which is obviously very apt at the moment, and also climate change. And as I've mentioned, we were the first UK university to declare a climate change emergency. We're also part of something called the Russell Group, which is a group of 24 research-intensive world-class UK universities, and it's a little bit like the US's Ivy League. And what that means for you as a student is that you will be being taught by academics who are actively researching alongside their teaching. So it's a research-led education. You will be not just kind of being taught by academics who are regurgitating information to you, but actually those who are writing the journal articles, writing the textbooks that you're going to be learning from, and which I think is really important because it means that you get a very relevant experience, and you also get involved in research as well. So we actively encourage students to do their own research alongside their learning. So moving on to our study abroad programme. So we welcome around 180 study abroad students each semester from all over the world. So we have from North America, Australia, from Europe, from South America. We have students coming from New Zealand, students coming from Singapore, Hong Kong. It's a really, really diverse cohort, which is great because it means as a study abroad student, you'll get to meet amazing people from all over the world. Our program's also really flexible, so students can choose classes in your major or your minor, or you could just decide to choose classes that interest you. So say you're a maths major, but you want to take maybe a film and TV class at Bristol, that is an option for you. You just need to ensure that you meet any prerequisites for those courses. You can also decide to form pathways across different themes. So some students have decided to really focus in on a specific theme such as globalization or British studies whilst they're with us, and choose units from across our university academic faculties to basically make a really interdisciplinary experience whilst they're with us. What's great as a study abroad student as well is that you take classes alongside regular Bristol students, so there isn't any distinction. We don't run any study abroad specific units or classes, and that really helps students with integration into the programme, but also integration into the university as well. Sometimes students, when they study abroad, can get stuck in a study abroad bubble where they will just meet other study abroad students, and having classes alongside regular full degree students really kind of helps you to make those connections with UK students, but also other international students that may be studying their full degree at Bristol. So in terms of subject areas, we offer a really comprehensive offering at Bristol. So these are the areas which you can currently study under on our study abroad programme. There's just a couple of things I want to note from this is that law and chemistry are offered as a full year option only. So if you are wanting to study those subjects at Bristol, you will need to come for the full academic year because those units run across the year. Also, with aerospace, mechanical, civil, engineering, a lot of their units do run across the full year. So we do recommend that if you want to have the most choice of those units and to be able to really structure your programme and choose units that will work for your degree back at home, we do recommend coming for a full academic year in order to give you the most amount of flexibility and choice. And then the only other thing to note is if you are a computer science major and you want to study computer science units at Bristol, it's worth being aware that those units are open to majors only, and also they are more advanced units. So usually we're able to offer units within our third, which is our final year of our degree programmes. So it's worth making sure that you have the right prerequisite knowledge in order to take those units. I think it's really helpful just to give you a little bit of an overview about what to expect study abroad in the UK, because it is very different than the US academic system. So the UK academic life, we give students lots of academic freedom, but more responsibility to really self-motivate their own learning. There's a real big focus on independent study in the UK. So we will ask students to do a lot of independent reading, a lot of independent research outside of their class time. And you will have fewer contact hours in the UK than probably what you are taking in the US. So we do really ask students to be as self-motivated as possible to make sure that they're completing all their outside of classroom reading. There's also less continuous assessment in the UK. So in the US, I know it's quite common to be assessed very regularly throughout the semester. But in the UK, we usually assess students in the middle of the semester, maybe for some courses. And then really the bulk of the assessment will be at the end of the semester. So that is quite different, and we do recommend students to stay on top of the work in order to make sure that they're fully prepared for that bulk assessment at the end of the semester. Saying all of this, I think it's really excellent preparation for the self-motivation and the discipline that's needed for graduate study. So if you are interested in graduate study in the US, having a study abroad period in the UK will really prepare you for that. We've got a little bit of a comment here. So one of you's asked, are the contact hours the same as office hours in the US? So contact hours are not the same as office hours. So office hours would be separate, I believe, as long as your understanding of office hours is the same as mine, which is where you would go and see an academic in person, maybe one-to-one, and ask them questions. What I mean by contact hours is hours that you're actually being taught, so either in a seminar or a lecture. So a lecture is kind of a big group of students where a professor or academic will stand at the front of the lecture theatre and kind of present to you in a similar way that I'm doing now. A seminar in the UK is more where you will go in smaller groups and look at specific reading and have more of a discussion-based session, so where you'll ask questions, ask each other questions, present kind of your research and your findings of what you've read that week. And then obviously we have things like labs for science and engineering based courses where you'll be in the lab. And also we have group work, which is sometimes counted towards contact hours as well. So there's quite a few different ways in which you can be taught and assessed. But by contact hours, we mean kind of teaching hours. Office hours are those in which you can still go and visit an academic one-on-one, but it's more to ask specific questions about the course content or any kind of issues that you may have. I hope that answers your question. So moving on to student life. Student life in the UK is really fantastic, and at Bristol, I think it's, as I've mentioned before, a really great city to be a student. Our team, the Global Opportunities team, will provide you with comprehensive support. So we really are the first port of call if you have any questions or need any help or are looking for any advice. You can come and speak to our team. We are around Monday to Friday, 9 to 5. We're not actually in the office at the moment due to the pandemic, but we are offering kind of online appointments that students can book with us. We also help advise on things like visas. So if you need a visa to study in the UK, which many of you probably, if not all of you, will, we run an orientation for our students to help them settle into the university, but also to settle into the new UK academic culture and life in the UK. We run a welcome social as well to give students this chance to meet each other and to make those friendships and form those bonds during the first week. And then we also, with the help of our Global Lounge team, run a full social programme throughout the semester as well. So our Global Lounge team are a relatively new team. They've been around for about 2 and a bit years, I think. And they run lots of intercultural events throughout the year, but they also run a huge amount of events when students first arrive on campus. So things like speed friending, they run language cafes where you can go and learn another language. They'll help students if they need help with kind of just general living in Bristol, where to find food, those kind of things. They'll run student webinars where students can give you their experiences of what it was like for them when they first arrived in the UK. And then we also have obviously things like a health service. So we recommend that all incoming students sign up to our student health service in order to be able to access medical care whilst they're with us. And we do also offer academic support. So each faculty and school within the university will have their own study abroad academic director, who is someone that is on hand to help specifically study abroad students with any academic questions or queries they may have. So they're a really good resource and a really good person to go to if you do have questions whilst you're studying with us. We also have things like our wellbeing service, which helps students if they are facing any difficulties whilst they're studying with us, and our residential life service as well, who run a similar function. And then we have our students' union. So you may not have heard of a students' union, but basically in the UK, it is a organisation that is run by students for students. It houses all of our student societies and our sports clubs. They all run out of the students' union. They also run a lot of events on campus, so welcome events, freshers fairs, where students can go and find out about all the different societies. And we have one of the most active students' unions within the UK. So we've got about 400 societies, and also about 60 to 70 sports clubs as well that students can get involved in. So anywhere from skydiving all the way to kind of cheese and wine tasting, it's got really something for everyone. And as a study abroad student, we'd highly recommend you getting involved in a society, because it's a great way to meet new people and also just to try something new. So just really briefly touching on accommodation. So if you do decide to study abroad at Bristol, we're able to guarantee university allocated accommodation for September entry. For January entry students, we aren't able, unfortunately, to guarantee accommodation, but we will do our very best to help you be placed in university accommodation. And if not, we will help advise about private options in the city of Bristol. Your accommodation, much like your classes, will be a mixture of British and international students that you're going to be living with. So we don't place study abroad students just with other study abroad students, because again, we want to really integrate you into UK life. There's 3 different villages, and I would highly recommend, if you are interested in applying to Bristol, going online and having a look at our East, West and North villages and the kind of accommodation options that they offer. I mentioned it a little bit previously, but we do have 24/7 residential life support in each of our residences. So students, if they have any questions, if they need any help, it doesn't have to be related to their accommodation. It could just be that they want to chat to someone, or they're struggling figuring out, I don't know, how to use the washing machine or something like that. They can reach out to our residential life team and they'll be able to help. And they are available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We also, as I said, we do advise on private options. So if you are looking to live outside of university allocated accommodation, then we do have a team at the university who can help with that. I would recommend that if you are coming for a semester only, that really you do want to apply for university allocated accommodation, because it's just really easy. It takes away all of the kind of stress of having to find somewhere. It's quite difficult to find somewhere in Bristol to live, obviously, when you're not living in the city yourself. And also the housing market in Bristol is relatively buoyant, so students can sometimes find it a little bit hard to find accommodation outside of the university offering. In terms of facilities, just to give you a really quick idea, so in the UK, a lot of our students will have their own room. It's quite uncommon to share a room with another student, which I know is quite different than the US. So you're likely to have your own room. If you did want to share a room, that can sometimes be an option, but obviously you can request that when you apply. It's a real range of prices. So on the cheaper end of things, a shared room would be relatively cheap in comparison to a single room where you may have your own ensuite bathroom. It's quite common for quite a lot of newer build accommodation buildings to have your own bathroom, so don't be surprised if you do end up in a lovely single room with your own bathroom. The accommodation in the UK is pretty well, it has a lot of good facilities, and you can choose catered or self-catered options. So if you want to cook for yourself, obviously I'd highly recommend self-catered, and it gives a little bit more flexibility. But if you like having food ready for you and not having to cook, then catered is again a good option. I've got another question. So spring 2021 isn't guaranteed housing, or was that for the... So just to clarify, if students come in the autumn semester, so fall, so that could be fall 2021, fall 2022, we do guarantee housing. So for full year students, or for those that just come for the full semester, we're able to guarantee housing. For spring entry students, if they're just coming for one semester at any point, so any year in the spring, then we're not able to guarantee accommodation. What I can say is we haven't had any issues in the past in placing our students in university allocated accommodation in the spring, but it's just worth you being aware that it's not fully guaranteed. Saying that, we don't usually have issues in terms of capacity. So I hope that answers that question for you, Oliver. In terms of entry requirements, so just really quickly to run through entry requirements, we ask students to have completed at least 1 year of study at university level before they start their Bristol studies, and we also ask students to have a 3.0 GPA or equivalent. English language requirements won't be applicable to you because you're studying at an English-speaking institution, so you can ignore that part. And then in terms of actually how to apply, I would recommend you getting in contact with your study abroad advisors at UW-Madison and finding out kind of the process from their side of things. Usually students will be nominated to Bristol, so we'll receive a list of nominations and then we'll send you further information about how to apply. It's a really simple application on our end. You just need to complete an online application form to submit your transcript to us, to submit any other supporting documents, and also to submit a passport to us as well. And then I just thought it would be quite nice just to run through some images of Bristol, just so you can get a little bit more of a feel of the city. So on the left, you have kind of a shot of, I guess, our campus. So I don't know if you can see my mouse, but hopefully you can. This building here in the middle, so the very tall one, is called the Wills Memorial Building. And this is kind of the University of Bristol's flagship building. It's where our School of Earth Sciences is based and also our School of Law. And it's also the building from which our University of Bristol full degree students graduate from. It's a really gorgeous building. So if you do come to Bristol, I highly recommend having a real good look around the building. They've got a fantastic library base there, which is a really nice place to study really. And then behind that building, I don't know again if you can see my mouse, but all of this is the University of Bristol kind of city-based campus. So just to be clear, we are a city-based campus. So we're not separate from the city of Bristol. We're actually kind of in pretty much the centre of Bristol. We're in an area of Bristol called Clifton, which is a really, really nice area of the city. There's lots of really beautiful Georgian architecture in Clifton. It's one of kind of the, I guess, the posher areas of Bristol. And our university campus, it is relatively small. So from kind of the Wills Memorial all the way to the top of campus, I'd say it's around a 10 to 15 minute walk. So again, it's really easy to get from lectures to other lectures because everything's pretty compact in terms of the campus itself. And then on the right hand side, you have an image of an area of Bristol, which I highly recommend if you do come to go and check out. It's called Wapping Wharf, and at Wapping Wharf, we have lots of really cool shipping containers with loads of different food and different cuisines. So lots of restaurants, bars, and kind of shops and places to get takeaway food as well. It's a really nice place right down near the harbour side in Bristol. I definitely recommend it. And then we also have on the left again, that's the Wills Memorial Building lit up in the Pride flag colours. And on the right hand side, we have our School of Life Sciences building. So this building was actually opened back in 2014 by Sir David Attenborough, who I don't know if you've heard of, but he's kind of like our national treasure, I'd say. So he is a nature documentarist, and yeah, it was really exciting. He opened up that building for us. On the left hand side again, this is the harbour side. So on a lovely sunny evening like tonight, you will see a lot of people paddleboarding down the harbour side, rowing, kayaking, and there's lots of water sports. It's really a wonderful walk actually to go all the way around the harbour side. It takes about an hour, but it's loads to see and lots of places to stop off for a drink on the way. You'll also notice in the background there, we've got lots of houses, colourful houses, and they're quite, Bristol's quite well known for its colourful houses. So lots of Victorian terraces in Bristol in different parts of the city will be painted in multicolours, and I think it's really nice because it just makes the place feel a little bit more bright and vibrant. On the right hand side, you've just got a picture of two of our students, again walking along near the harbour side. And yeah, that's pretty much everything from me. So feel free to jot down our different social media handles if you want to stay in contact with us. Also, I will quickly put my email in the chat. So if any of you have any questions, do feel free to get in contact. And we'll move on to the Q&A part of the session. Has got a question for us, which is actually a really good one. Which is, how is Bristol approaching COVID-related circumstances? So for 2020-21, I'm getting ahead of we are going to be following a blended learning approach. So we are welcoming students to campus in September. So actually within the next week or so, students will be coming back onto campus, but we will be following blended learning. So what that means for students is we will have a lot of learning online. So there'll be an element of online learning, especially for those classes where usually they would have big lecture halls. Obviously that's not possible at the moment. So a lot of lectures will be based online. And then we'll also have some element of face-to-face teaching as well. So that will be very small group teaching. And we are following government and Public Health England guidelines on that. That's going to continue for January. Obviously, depending on the situation in the UK, we may need to scale back some of that face-to-face teaching. And if things do improve, then we also may be able to offer more face-to-face learning for students. So we're really just taking it quite flexibly as an institution based on what's happening in the UK and the current government guidelines and guidance. For students who are studying with us, we've increased, we've introduced a lot of security and safety measures on campus. So obviously we will have increased hygiene measures, increased cleaning on campus. We are limited the amount of people that can go into certain buildings. So it will be very strict in terms of making sure that we are able to keep a good social distance between students. All of our students will also be given a mask, I believe 2 masks and a visor for them to wear whilst they're on campus. And we will also, obviously, as I said, update any students if any Public Health England or government advice changes in terms of what we are allowed and not allowed for students to do. So it will look quite different this academic year. And we're looking forward to welcoming students back, but we are very aware of the fact that we do need to ensure that everyone's safety is our top priority on campus. I've got another question, which is, what are the upcoming application deadlines? It's a really good question. So anyone who's interested in studying abroad at Bristol in spring, our applications are currently open. The deadline to submit all of your documents to us is the 25th of October. So just be aware that you need to make sure that you've got your online application in and also all of your other documents sent through to us. If you're looking to study abroad from fall 2021 onwards, then usually we open our applications for fall and the following spring in around January, February time. So at that point, you can go online and apply. For fall, usually our application deadline is the 1st of June. So that's for full year students and also those that are just doing teaching block 1. And then again, for spring semester, it's usually around the 25th of October. Does Bristol offer any specific forms of international financial aid scholarship programs for international students? That's a really good question, Ellie. Unfortunately, for study abroad students, we don't currently offer any kind of financial aid for those students. So obviously, as a UW-Madison student, we're an exchange partner with Bristol, so you will be able to come to Bristol tuition free. So usually what happens is you will pay UW-Madison tuition fees, and then you don't pay any fees to Bristol. But in terms of living expenses, unfortunately, we aren't able to offer any kind of bursaries or scholarships for those students who are studying abroad with us. And I would say, to give you an idea of how much it's likely to cost, we usually say to students it's around £9,000 to £12,000 per year of study for living costs. So that's to include accommodation, food, textbooks, having fun, any kind of things that you need, sports clubs, bus passes, transport, travel. Yeah, usually around kind of 9,000 to 12,000 a year. So for a semester, it would be around £4,500 to £6,000, just to give you an idea. Students can live on a lot less. So what I would say is that is kind of a general guide. You can obviously, if you decide not to go traveling around Europe, then it will be cheaper for you. But obviously, again, students can live on a lot more. So it's just worth being aware in terms of budget, how much it's likely to cost. It's definitely cheaper than somewhere like London as a city. I think it's around 25% cheaper. But Bristol is still a really popular city to live in. And what that means usually is that living costs go up. We're also based in the south of the UK, which is usually a little bit more expensive than somewhere further north, such as like Manchester or Leeds. And yeah, unfortunately, a lot of people move from London to Bristol because it's such a great place to live. So that does mean that it does increase kind of living costs in the city. I've got another question from Ether. How likely is it that study abroad at Bristol would be cancelled? Also, would there be reimbursement if it were to be cancelled? Really good question again. So at the moment, we are, as I've said, open for not only September entry for students. Well, you can't apply now, but obviously we are welcoming students within the next week to Bristol, but also we are open for spring applications. I think it's quite unlikely that our study abroad will be cancelled because at the moment, like I said, we're looking at that blended learning model where students will study part of their course online and then have some face-to-face element. I think the one thing that could happen potentially if things do become worse in terms of our case numbers and the pandemic, and we're forced to impose kind of more restrictions, will be that maybe a lot more will move online, so there won't be as much face-to-face element. So that's just something to be aware of. But I think it's quite unlikely that we would fully cancel the programme, but obviously we don't know what's going to happen over the next couple of months. But rest assured, we will let UW-Madison know and all students know if it is looking like the programme may be cancelled. Reimbursement if it were to be cancelled. So you won't pay any kind of accommodation fees or anything like that to Bristol until you arrive. And in terms of actual, obviously, tuition fees, you won't be paying to us, you'll be paying to your home university. And if it was cancelled, you would just stay on for the semester at your home university. So we won't offer any kind of reimbursement prior to cancellation because you wouldn't have paid anything. Obviously, if we do cancel the programme as the semester goes on, once you've already arrived, then we would need to look at reimbursements. I don't think we have any concrete advice in place in terms of accommodation refunds and things like that. But again, we will provide more information if it looks like that's likely to be the case. UW Study Abroad programme has a different deadline for the application, which is the 18th of September. Should we go by October 25th or UW's Study Abroad deadline? Definitely UW's, so really good question, Wilbur. So that's UW, that's the application deadline that you'll need to get your application into UW. So how it works usually is that you'll submit an application to UW, you'll then be give them a list of kind of the places where you want to go and the institutions that you want to study abroad at. I'm guessing from their end, they'll then place students in certain institutions, and that's when we receive your nominations. So from UW, we get a list of students that have been nominated for the programme. And then what we'll do is we will send you details of how to apply to the programme on our end. So you just have to fill in an online application form, as I mentioned before. It's really, really simple. It really shouldn't take too long. But that online application form will just give us your personal details. Also, it's where you'll be able to choose your units, so your classes for the semester or the year. At that point, you would write in the classes that you're hoping to take at Bristol. And there's lots of information on our website about how to choose your classes and how to kind of navigate our unit catalogue, because it can be a little bit confusing. So yeah, in that application, you would have that. And then you just need to submit, as I said, your transcript to us, any other supporting documents, and your passport. And you just need to make sure that you complete that part prior to the October 25th. So the UW part, complete that by the 18th of September, and then October 25th for the a University of Bristol application. Hopefully that's answered that question. Does anyone else have any other questions or anything else they want to know about Bristol or the programme? No. Okay, well, as I said, what I'll do now is I'll just type my email in the chat box. Are the pubs open? Great question, Oliver. Yeah, they are open. So pubs are open at the moment. They were reopened months ago, I guess. It's quite different than it was before, as I'm sure it is in the US, in that obviously if you're in the pub, you have to wear a mask. A lot of pubs in Bristol have lots of outdoor seating, which is really great because it means that people can sit outside. You don't need to wear a mask if you're sitting outside, and the tables are 2 meter distances apart from each other, which is really good. You're not able to meet up with more than 6 people at the moment in the UK. So we had new rules come in on Sunday, which basically mean that we are limited to up to 6 different people to meet at the moment, and that could be from one household or different households. So if you are going to go to the pub, just be aware that you won't be able to go if there's more than 6 of you, or you'll need to split up and really not speak to each other whilst you're there. But a lot of pubs are also doing table service, so you have things like apps where you'll just kind of order your drinks and then someone will come and bring your drinks to you. So we're trying to minimise as much kind of contact as possible. Are students mingling a lot as of now, or are they keeping indoors, trying to get a feel for the level of social interaction to expect? Yeah, good question. So, I mean, people are kind of meeting, and definitely students are meeting. What I would say is it is illegal to meet with more than 6 people. So groups are smaller, but people are still going out, going to restaurants, going to the pubs. The pubs are shutting a little bit earlier, but as I said, you can still kind of go to the pub. And there is obviously still social interaction happening on campus. I think it just looks quite different this year. So in terms of kind of meeting different people outside of, if you're in university accommodation, we have things called living circles, which are basically where you can interact with people in your living circle without having to socially distance. But outside of that, you just need to be really, really careful, really. So if you are going to the pub with people that you don't live with, then you do still need to really be keeping at least a 1 meter plus distance away from those people. So it's quite different, definitely. But there are, you know, we're not in a lockdown situation at the moment where people aren't able to do those things and things are actually shut. Restrictions are easing. What I would say is if you are looking to come in January, it is going to be a different experience than it has been in the past. So I think you really need to think about whether the kind of experience that is going to be on offer is for you, and whether you are able to kind of deal with the differences. Really, there's not as much freedom as there has been in previous years. So I think it is just worth really considering whether study abroad's right for you in January. Obviously, we are still open to students, and we do have students that are coming to us in September, so in the next couple of weeks. And I think those students will still have a really, really great time. You know, academically, they're still going to get a great education at Bristol. They will still meet different people whilst they're with us, but obviously it is different than just being able to kind of live your life as students would in previous years. I got a question from Layla, sorry. How cold is it there in January typically? So it depends. So historically, it's been pretty cold in January. So sometimes in Christmas we do have snow, but I'd say it's usually kind of around 3 degrees all the way up to 10 degrees. So I'm really bad at Fahrenheit. We don't really do Fahrenheit in the UK, but let me do a quick look as to what 3 degrees centigrade is in Fahrenheit. Okay. around 37.4 to, I would say, about, sometimes it can get a little bit hotter in January, sometimes it can be around 12, 13. Yeah, so kind of like late 30s to 50s, 60s, depending on the year. So not too cold. It can get colder, obviously, so sometimes you can get real cold spells where it will be kind of -1, -2, but that is usually yeah, it's quite unusual for it to get that cold in the UK these days. Yeah, I think that's probably everything. If anyone's got any other questions, feel free to in the group. I've just added my email there. So if you do, oh. It's just ellie.dunmore@bristol.ac. So if you do have any questions that you think of later on, then feel free just to send me an email. But if not, then thanks very much for listening and for coming to the session. And hopefully you've learned something about Bristol. Hopefully you've had a think about whether you may want to consider coming up to study abroad next year. But yeah, get in contact. Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely rest of the day. It's the morning for you, so enjoy the rest of your day. All right, take care. Bye.